with me, come say hi in the chat box. I just like knowing who's here, where you're calling in from or listening in from, if it's in your car, on your phone. I want to make sure this is like super valuable for everybody. So even if you just want to drop in and say hi and just let me know where you're at today. We are here coming from, we've got the webinar going, and then I'm also going to start up the Instagram Live. Hi, Instagram fam. So if you're just joining today, just come say hi. If you're joining from Instagram, come say hi in the chat box. If you are joining from the webinar, good for you, because you guys might get the recording later. Fingers crossed. So if you guys are just joining, I just want you to kind of pop in the chat box, say hi. Tell me your name, tell me where you're calling from. Some of you may be confused on Instagram why we're here, what we're doing today, but in case you're just joining, yeah, come say hi. I like knowing where you're calling from. We're gonna get into some business talk today. So I know this might not be for all of you. Some of you are just popping in to see my face. Hey. So if you are not interested or curious about the business talk, then this might not be worth your time. But if you are here, then welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. So come tell me where you're calling, where you're listening in from today, and kind of where you're at too with your business or thinking about starting a business. Is it something that you are just like slightly thinking about? Is it something that you like dream about in the future? Is it something that you currently maybe have a business, but it's maybe in the beginning stages? I just like knowing who's here so that I can kind of help serve you guys the best and give you the best types of advice, knowing where you are. So we're going back and forth today between Instagram and the webinar. So if I missed your comment or can't see it, just type it again, right? Don't be offended. It's especially on Instagram, it's like so tiny, such a small font. Okay, so for those of you that are here on the webinar, please come say hi. Don't be shy. And truly, this will actually help you too, so that I can gear this towards just knowing where you're at. That probably depends a little bit on what my advice would be. So if you want to get the most out of it, please feel free to do so. And just let me know I'm not alone, just talking to myself. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so we have a few dreamers about getting their feet wet, but nowhere near launch. A couple of people, it sounds like, are currently have businesses, but they're wanting to like up level, kind of continue to grow them. Hey guys. Hey. A few people thinking, okay, so mostly you guys joining today are kind of in the beginning stages, which is the piece that I probably could help maybe more so answer. So if you've been following along, you know, this journey and the series that I launched on the blog recently, I'm guessing that's kind of why you guys are all here. And I did that because I really wanted to kind of show and explain. I think it's so easy to look at other people and see these like businesses or see these people that you follow on Instagram without really knowing like the full story. So I kind of wanted to like peel back the layers a little bit and talk about like the true experience of what that is and looks like, especially in the online space. So if you have a business that is more like brick and mortar, or that is more so your dream, my advice, I wouldn't have any idea or know what I was talking about for that. A few basic like principles, but that's about it. So as we kind of like go into today, just know that that is my perspective on things, is growing a business that is in person, of course, but then also has like an online component as well. So yeah, if you guys are just joining today, this is the business webinar, and just asking and gathering where you guys are coming from, what stages you're in, whether it is like in the beginning stages or something that you maybe have going on, or maybe it's a side gig right now, but you're wanting to kind of take it to the next level. This is a like time to just purely have some Q&A time. I got a lot of questions submitted over email and through Instagram. So we've got tons of good stuff and juicy stuff to go into. But for those of you that are here live, if you do have questions, I am more than happy to answer them and kind of start out with them. So if I miss something, feel free to like type it back in the chat boxes. We have so many people joining in and out, and like this is going to be so fun. Okay, Rachel, so nice to meet you. Rebecca, Adrian, Heidi, Tanessa, Beth, this is so fun. Hi, Julie. Awesome. Okay. So as we kind of get started, if you are sort of new, whether it's a dream or beginning stages, or maybe you're like in your first year, if you're on Instagram, just give me some hearts just so I know who's here listening for that. And a few of you, it sounds like, are definitely in this beginning stage. So perfect. I love this. I love this. Thank you for taking the time to be here today. So I want to make sure this is like no fluff, just straight to the point, just super helpful, at least in my own experiences. Yay, thanks for the hearts, you guys. Yes, we'll talk about biggest tips. Thanks, Erin. Biggest tips and biggest mistakes when starting out. So whatever wisdom I can bestow upon you in whatever way I can today, I am more than happy to. I wish that there was somebody like that for me when I was first starting out. So this is just one of my favorite things to talk about. Okay, so when you are like in the beginning stages of this, like just knowing too that I don't consider myself an expert. I am not a business expert. I'm not a business coach. I am none of those things. I am just somebody who has like had the experience myself and have grown a business from nothing. So that, and in the particular in the online space, especially. So I don't claim to be any of those things, but I do think sometimes it is helpful to maybe hear a perspective of somebody who actually remembers what it is like to start a business, instead of people that are like, a lot of times the people that we look at and we see that are so successful have been doing it for like 10, 15, 20 years at a time. And they can sometimes forget what it is actually like in those beginning first stages. So those are the stages that I have come to like love and come to know and come to like be able to look back with like humor a little bit. So those are the types of things that I want to share today. So welcome. If you're here, you are definitely in the right place for all of that. So as we get started today, I just want you to know that like as your business, there's a few things I think that are almost like personality traits that are so helpful to have, and almost like necessary components to starting or running a business of any kind, especially doing something that you love. And so the first is thinking that you are wanting to build a business that is profitable. So there's a big difference between having a side hobby or wanting to have a lot of followers on Instagram and having an actual business that is profitable, meaning like successful, meaning that it pays for your living expenses and everything that you need in life. So that is the type of business, and that is my perspective on things, is that was always my goal. And so if you are doing something that is more of a hobby or just like something creative that you love, then more power to you. I think everybody needs a little bit of that in their life for sure. But the types of questions and the way I'll be answering these questions are definitely geared more towards people who are wanting to create a profitable business, or taking like their side business and turning it to be into something more like financially profitable and successful. So it's the pieces that people don't really like talk about a lot, but is truly, I think, an important piece to talk about, because it is such a big piece behind doing what you love. The second thing is that your brain should be one of those that is hopefully geared more towards problem solving, instead of being like feeling like a victim in your life. So I just have, if you know that this is true about yourself, that you have a tendency to like blame other people or other life circumstances or other things that are going on around you, and you have a tendency to blame other people instead of it being something that you take into yourself and try to like problem solve and help and, invest in yourself in that way. That personality trait like rarely does well from the get-go going into something like thinking about a business. So if you have that, like whenever you think about how you react to things in life, like if you are more so like, okay, when something happens that doesn't go according to plan, are you somebody that is like, okay, what are my options here? What can we do about this? Maybe what's the bright side in this? What are the lessons to be learned from here? Or are you somebody that takes you down in like this downward spiral of like, oh, I can't believe this happened to me. This is like, the universe is kind of out to get me. And like that mentality is so hard and literally like cannot go hand in hand with starting a business or having a business or running a business of any kind. So I just say that before we get into much else, that I think these are kind of like requirements almost to have to think about, like these are your foundations and baselines to think of whether you would be like even like a good personality fit, because it is not for everybody, that's for sure. Another like component to this, and this is I think maybe the most important, like, and we will get right into the questions after this. I just want you to know, like from a high level perspective, that like this third trait I think is something that has made the difference for me over and over and over again, but it is the willingness to get to know yourself really well, like the good, the bad, the ugly, of just knowing your personality, knowing your triggers, knowing the things that bring you joy, knowing the things that you're really good at in life, knowing the things that light you up. It's knowing like the ways that you sort of function best in the world. So really like the getting really into self-development. I think there's like no way around it because there are so many components and pieces to starting a business that just require that you are super like steady and confident in yourself and who you are, and are always continually like investing in that journey of whatever that looks like self-development wise. So with programs, with books, just anything that's going to help you immerse yourself in any type of experience that helps you learn yourself better, I think is always, always like so worth it. So not everybody's into that, but I think, and especially from the entrepreneurs that I know, that the most successful ones that have like been able to not only start a business, but like continue running it with grace, right? And continue like actually having a lot of joy in what they're doing day to day, requires like a big element of self-development and knowing yourself like really, really well, like to the most degree. So if that's like not really your jam, again, these types of advice and the questions that we'll get into may not be as helpful for you. So feel free to pop out if that's not the case, so that I can kind of serve the people that if you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm like kind of into that stuff. Like I'm definitely willing to invest and to go there and to not think that it is a separate thing, right? Of like how you are and knowing yourself really, really well is not a separate thing than whatever business you're going to create. If that's like a required piece, I think, to get you through all of the little nitty gritty things that like therefore come after. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. If you guys are just joining, feel free to still continue to say hi and let me know where you're calling in from and kind of where you're at with your business, like mind of things. And of course, if you do have any questions, feel free to type them in, but we'll get going here. So the first question I got, and these were sent to email this morning to you guys, for those that are on my list. But the first question was, how do you know what kind of business to start? So she said she has a lot of like different interests and things that she really likes, or she maybe knows like a general idea of the industry, let's say, or like the overarching theme of what she wants to do, but not necessarily anything specific. So little tips on how you can maybe figure that out. One is to think about like, what are the things that you do when you procrastinate? Like when you're literally like trying to get away from not doing anything else, like what are the things that you end up doing? Another way to think about it is like, what types of things are you pinning on Pinterest, right? What kind of accounts do you follow on Instagram? What does your Kindle list say? Like what types of things are you buying on Amazon? All of these can be like really good hints into, because sometimes we almost like take it for granted that it could be something that is actually involved in some part of our weekend life or our daily life, or what we do if we did have a completely free day. This is a good exercise to take yourself through. If you had a completely free day, what would you do? Or another way to think about this, and maybe it's just me that does this like on their birthday, but I'm like, on my birthday, I want to do all my favorite things, right? Everything is going to be a favorite thing. Like the clothes I wear, the like my coffee order, whatever I'm getting, like that is always the thing. So like actually maybe take yourself through that exercise of like, what would I do if I had a totally free day all to myself? Because there may be some hints in there as to like things that actually truly light you up. So that is another way to think about this. Like, what things do you feel like, you know, an hour could pass by and you almost don't even notice? What things do you feel like when you're doing them, you kind of just like forget about other things, or you procrastinate doing the things you actually have to do by doing these other types of things? So making like a little list, maybe you make a little list on your phone, or just like start journaling a little bit. Like, what are those things that you feel like just come so easy to you, the things that make you feel peaceful, the things that make you feel calm, the things that make you feel happy and excited? Those are all things to take note of in your life. I mean, honestly, whether a business is something that you want to do or not, like these are just really good things to know about yourself. So I would really encourage you to kind of take a look into that and do that exercise, because I think there's so much that you can probably get out of that, these like little tiny crumbs of hints and clues. Another way to think about this too is like, what do your friends ask you for help with? Like things that like maybe perplex other people or stress them out, or like they just like don't enjoy, and you don't understand how they could not enjoy it because you really like doing it so much. Like I have a friend who loves doing laundry, right? Or like loves organizing closets. Like I have friends that like love cleaning. I'm not any of these, by the way. At all. But like thinking of the things that like maybe other people don't enjoy doing, but you actually do, or you don't mind doing, can also be some other good hints or clues. And then also like thinking like, you know, what do people ever, your family or your friends, like, do people ask you for help with anything? And that can be like get outside of the box of trying to think of like, this has to be a business idea, and more just like you're starting to gather traits of like, who are you, right? This is part of the self-development stuff of like knowing yourself best. The things that light you up the most can oftentimes be like little tiny reminders of things that could be something potentially down the road that you may be able to help more people with on a slightly bigger scale. And that is truly what a business is like taking the gifts and talents that you've been given and being able to help more people, right, with that. And realizing that I really do think that like everybody does have a gift and everybody does have a talent, and like we are all just unique beings and people, and finding the things that you can help others with, whether it ends up being a business or not, is like such a beautiful thing, I think, to know about yourself, and like one of the keys to having just a very fulfilling and beautiful life in all senses of the terms. Okay, so yeah, so those would be like some ideas, like how to get the juices flowing. How do you like really know like what to start a business about? Would be kind of taking a couple steps back and just taking a big survey of your life on the whole, and trying to like pick up these little hints and clues. And then when you do find what those things are, my advice would be to like as much experience or time doing that thing as possible, just do it. Like immerse yourself, like take classes, like find courses, read all the books in that subject area, do all of the things that you are just constantly learning and growing in the things that light you up. Like, and oftentimes that in itself will lead you to what you feel like you can help with. There's also, like once you start figuring out what those things might be, and you have like your list of things going, like on your phone or in your journal, also starting to think of like, okay, so these are the things that I love doing. And then these are the things like of problems that I could help other people with, problems that I'm helping solve, things that I could make easier for other people. And like that little intersection, I call it like the zone of genius, is like, that is where a lot of like businesses actually start, when their business is built on like a passion or people serving in the world. It's like what things do you love doing combined with, okay, what problems are you helping people solve, or what you can make easier for other people's lives that may become easy for you. So those things are really like, because you kind of need to have both in some essences, like to know that this is something that like to have like both of these pieces, like that little intersection is like where all the juiciness is, all the goldness. Yes, I just saw Kaylin ask, is this going to be recorded? Hopefully, fingers crossed, that the webinar version will be recorded. So if you guys are like, yeah, like have to pop in and out of this, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll all be recorded. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Lexi. I love this. Okay, so does that make sense? I think that's a really worthwhile exercise for all of you that are here today. It doesn't matter if this business thing is for you. Really good way to get clear on your own life and kind of what you want to manifest and what you want to create in your own life. Super important to start there. Okay, next question I got is, what if you don't like sharing on social media? Is like starting a business something that's just doomed from the start? And I love this question so much because social media has turned into this like whole other animal, right? I think people sometimes confuse it for it being the same thing as having a business, but they're not always the same. So brands can have social media accounts, businesses can have social media accounts, and then there's like these other accounts of people that have just amassed a big following, but there's not always necessarily a business behind it, meaning like making money. They have like things that they're selling that they're helping other people with. So I think that's a really important distinction, is that not everybody you see on social media is a business, right? But most businesses have some type of social media, but not all. So I don't think that it is like a necessary part. I mean, for most businesses, yes, there will probably be some component to it, but does that mean that you have to be like an Instagram star and be doing like Instagram story videos of yourself every single day if you're like not a huge fan of that? No, there's so many ways that you can go about it. The reason why most people start with social media is that it is free, right? So as you're starting a business, that can be a big motivator. It's like, it is free. It's a free way to connect with people and to interact with people that are maybe potentially clients or potentially customers or people that you just want to kind of help serve in the world. And so I know a lot of businesses that are very successful that don't have any social media representation, or they just don't enjoy it. They don't put much effort into it. I do find that if it's not social media, then it does have to be like, you do have to have a way to communicate with your audience. So if it's not social media, maybe it's email, maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's through like YouTube, like things that you are, maybe it's through webinars that you record ahead of time. It does not mean that every single person has to be doing the same thing or follow the same formula at all. But I do think that there is some element of like, you have to have some way that you are interacting with your peeps, right? And so social media is just one way, but I do think there are lots of other ways that you can go about it, that it doesn't have to look the same for every single person or every single business. Okay, so if you guys are just joining in, this is the business webinar. We're not really talking food today, but if you do have questions, be sure to let me know. And if you're here, I just like seeing the hearts, or hey, just like talking in the chat box if you're on the webinar. It makes me feel like I'm not a weirdo talking to myself all alone. So feel free to chime in. Also, you can like come say hi to each other too. It's fun. Okay, so all right, the next question is kind of along the same lines, sort of. It says, how do you get over being shy? I know that having a business seems like you have to promote yourself a lot and market yourself. How do you, and did you ever deal with that? So when I first started, for sure, I was like really shy and I hated doing like video. I would never have done like a live call like this. It was like so scary and so intimidating to me, but I think one, the more you do it, the easier it gets, for sure. Two, I think that when you kind of have gone through the exercises of like self-development and gotten sort of like really clear on the things that do light you up and the ways that you can serve other people in your life, it becomes less about you and more about like what your message is that can help other people, right? So I like in the beginning when I started, it was like I was making it all about me. I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. Like, oh, people are going to be like judging me. What if my hair is weird? Like, I didn't get my eyebrows waxed. Like, all these things, you know, that could possibly start or like stop you from doing anything, like putting yourself out there, until you get to the point of realizing that like, well, what I'm doing could potentially, even if it even helps like one person listening, right, then it would be worth it. Then I can get over myself and then like stop like judging myself, or and like know that if I'm helping one person, it would be so worth it. So this is like, you know, I still have to be reminded. I have to remind myself of this all the time. Like even before this call, right? I could be like, oh, like I don't really want to shower. Like I just, you know, not really like in the mood. I'm like, but if there is like even one of you, literally, I'm like, it's not about my hair or like what I look like, or like maybe there's something like that I can share that might help or change even somebody's life that you may not know about just from something that you are sharing. So in some ways, getting over being shy is a little bit about like getting over it being about you in some ways and showing up to serve other people. So when you are building a business based on something that you love and based on truly like helping other people, I think this gets a little bit easier. If it's a business that is like you're not really into, right, or is not something that is like part of your of who you are, then it can be a little bit harder because then it does totally feel like it is about you. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I do think that as like you learn a little bit more and are able to dig a little bit more into your message, into like the meaning, and even into your own stories, let's say, of how what brought you to this topic or what brought you to this interest, is it makes it so much easier to talk about when it's not just like, oh, look at me in these cute yoga pants, you know, just like very different. Okay. Okay. Rebecca asked a great question. She said, how do you stay organized and stay consistent in your marketing? So Rebecca, this is like one of the things that when I was first starting out, I kept like hearing over and over again. So as you guys know, I did Marie Forleo's B School, which opens today and is super exciting because she only opens it one time a year. And I'm going to be like leading a group of people through it because it was something that was so helpful for me in learning the foundational like basics of starting a business. And this was one of the things that I learned from her was like, how do you actually market and like help people, like help get your message across in a way that's not salesy and not sleazy and not like pushy and not like you don't feel like this like sleazy car salesman, but how do you communicate with your people, right? And like the people who are opting into wanting to hear from you, you're not like bothering and like blasting this huge message across to people that don't care, but truly being like thinking about your marketing as another way to serve people, right? Are you seeing kind of this consistent message here? Like there is so much, I think, behind a business and in marketing and going about it that way. So and like staying consistent, there are lots of ways you can go about it. The thing that has worked really well for me is doing a weekly email and just committing like no matter what, no matter what. I think on 2 occasions, one was like getting married and one was, I think when we were traveling like last summer and like out of the country. Those are the 2 times that I did not send a Thursday email. But other than that, like it has become just a priority for me. And that's the way that I do it. But there's lots of other ways. There's, you know, podcasts, there's doing YouTube videos, there's doing like Instagram lives and Facebook lives. And marketing in itself can be considered so many different things. So when I did B School, that was one of the first foundational principles is like setting up these things that are actually going to help you over time. Because if you don't do those types of things in the beginning, it's so easy to just get pulled into like you're you're just like running around with your head cut off. You're like, oh, I should be doing this. And I should be building a website and I should be doing an email list. And what about Instagram? Oh yeah, now I'm getting to do Facebook Live. And what about Pinterest? And what about YouTube? And what about like, there's all of these things that could be like fighting for your attention. And so that was the thing that helped me like with B School was like, here's what you need to do first, second, third. Here's how to set up an email list. Here's how to do like a free gift to offer to people to get onto your email list. Here's how you like communicate with them weekly. Here's the different options. Here are the different systems that you can use, and like these different systems for newsletters, and this is a great option for this. And so that was like one of truly the most helpful things, because I don't know if I would have done that on my own. Actually, I know that I wouldn't. There'd be way too many like other shiny objects or things that I would like that seemed more sexy and appealing to do first. But those foundational basics are the ones that actually have made the biggest difference. And in a way of like, you're going to need to do those things at some point or another. Every successful business online does. But you could go, like, it would almost make it twice as long for you to get to that point, unless you kind of have a way of like forcing to do those things first that are actually meaningful, and like the base building blocks of building a business that can grow and that can scale and that can be online and then also in person too. Rebecca, did that help you? How to stay organized and consistent in your marketing? Yes, it becomes just like one of the baseline components that I think is necessary for a successful business in multiple types of industries, in any type of industry, really. It has to start from those foundational basics. Yeah. So, and you guys, if B School is something you're thinking about, I'm running a group like of people. I'm one of her like partners. So I do like a group, and I take people with like through the modules, and then for like the 4 months after as well. So if that's something you're interested in, I just put the link in my Instagram bio, and I'll be posting it on the blog today. So if you sign up through the link, then you're automatically registered with me as your little like side mentor, because it's something that I just love doing, and it's made such a difference for me. So that's what I'm doing. And to have the sort of like insider helpful piece of like doing this, but doing it with somebody that I definitely remember what it's like, and all of the funny and overwhelming and great and amazing and beautiful things that are a part of this like process, of this huge process and huge piece of your heart and huge piece of your soul, coming like out into the world to help like serve and love on other people. Super important. And oh yeah, great question. Is it an extra fee? No, it's no extra fee. It's not at all. It's just for free. But it's something that if you are curious about it, yeah, if you haven't completed Nikki's asking, I haven't completed it all yet. Could you still join? Yeah. So as far as I know, the only way you can join into my group is if you use my link, and that's how they know to track like who is in my group on their end. So if you want to do that, you can use the link. And if you have already registered, but you feel like it's maybe not right, I think you can email their team and say, can I be put on with Sarah's group? Yeah, it's just nice to have a small group to go through it, honestly, because it's like there's a lot of information, and it can like the big massive group can get a little overwhelming. And honestly, it's just what I wish I had when I was going through it, of like somebody who had been through it, who was just like a couple years ahead, who could tell me and help like clarify some things, help talk me off the ledge when I needed to, and like remind me of the things that are important. So that's why I'm doing it. It's no extra cost, but it's so fun for me to be able to do that and to like be on the other side. I never imagined in a million years that this is kind of where it would be, but it's awesome. So if you guys are curious about that, the link's in my like top profile, my Instagram bio, and I will also post it on the blog tonight when part 4 of the story goes live. Okay. So if you guys do have any other questions for me, any questions, yeah, about B School, about other like business questions. I know, I had one more question. And I see this question here. What is your biggest takeaway from doing B School? And I will absolutely share. I have a few. But this one was a great question that said, what are the best things to learn for a small business? She said like WordPress or Instagram. So truly the best things to learn is about yourself, for sure. The things that you feel like come really easy to you, your gifts, your skills, your talents, the ways that you work best, the hours of the day that you work best, right? The types of food that you do like the best with to help like fuel something like this. But truly like skills that are super helpful would be like writing. And again, you can find help or get help or assistance with any of these skills if you don't feel like they are in your wheelhouse. But between like writing, thinking about like copywriting, WordPress, I think is always helpful, or just like knowing how to write a blog. But even these days, there's like Squarespace. You don't really, it's just like drop in pictures, type in their templates. Like the tech side of things can feel really intimidating. But I don't think that there is any like, I think there's a lot of general skills that are helpful, like writing, time management, thinking about your messaging, thinking about the ways that you are different, right? And the ways that you can help people are super important. And then from the technical side of things, just picking the things that you feel like you could learn on your own or would be worth the time to invest a little bit more into like writing or into learning a little bit about WordPress or into learning a little bit about Instagram stories or learning how to like set up Pinterest as a business. Like all of those things are helpful, but they're not necessary, because I truly think they're all things that you can learn, right? You can learn, or you can find somebody to help you with those things, and to not feel like you have to do every single thing on your own. Like when I started out, I was like trading with other people. And that's where I think B-School is helpful, because you have all of these like people that are starting businesses, but in like all over the world and in all kinds of different industries. So like you may be struggling with like, oh, I don't know how to like write this about page on my website. And there's somebody in the group that like, that's exactly what they do, is they're trying to start a copywriting business, you know? And so there's like ways, there's like just beautiful little intersections in a community like that, where everybody's on the same page. Everybody's so willing to help. They have time to do it. It's just, you know, maybe not the money to afford somebody that's like a super professional. But at least like you have this like tribe of people around you that are in a similar like phase of getting like the most exciting thing started. Okay, so this, let's see, another question up here. Claire says, I do have a question. Do you go through periods where you can't stop doing your business, and then moments of being uninspired where you're not sure where to go? How do you push forward for that? Claire, yes. Are you kidding? Yes. This is like it's a part of it for sure. Like I have days and mornings where I'm just like, feel so stuck, and I feel so like caught in my own head, or just with like fear or worry, or like where I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't like good enough, or I'm not done with this project yet, or what happens if I don't get this one, or just like anxiety of like this, or just feeling totally uninspired of like, just like same thing again, like another weekly email, you know, what am I going to say now? It is so a part of it. There's periods of like where you feel like you're just so on fire and you're so like in the zone, and it's so much fun. And then there's like periods of time where you're like, wait, what? Why am I doing this again? So it's one of the reasons why, and like in the group that I coach through B-School, is like one of my biggest pieces of advice to them is like that you have to find ways that you always like bring yourself back to good, like little rituals or little reminders. Or like for me, sometimes it's just a reminder of like, this isn't about you, right? This is like you're making it too much about yourself right now, when the reality is like I have a message to help other people with, and I am here on this earth to serve and help other people. And when I focus on that, oftentimes that takes away a lot of like the doubt and a lot of the like fear and a lot of the insecurity and a lot of the moments where I'm just like feel stuck. It's because I'm focusing on the wrong things or letting the wrong things kind of weigh me down. So this is where like mindset is so important, and why I say like self-development and like anything you can do that is always investing in yourself and in your brain and how your thoughts are firing, like being truly healthy, like across the board before you go into a venture like this, I think is something that is so helpful to do. And like as part of B School, I'm going to be helping people even with like the food piece, because it's huge when you're starting a business. Like you don't have time to not have energy, right? Or to feel uninspired. And so finding the things and the ways that always help boost you up, bring you back to good, like bring you back to like recentering of like why you started in the first place. But yeah, we're human. I mean, yeah, it is so like a part. There's just seasons of so much flow, and then there's seasons of like feeling so frustrated and stuck. But overall, like most days, like it feels just so good, and it's so much fun, because it's something that you care about. So it's much harder to get stuck and frustrated in the first place if it's something that you like do truly love and is something that does light you up. Does that help? Yes. Okay. I love it. Yeah. And you just have launched your business too. So yeah, you're in that phase. And I think especially, honestly, Claire, like the first year is hard. It is like so hard because you are setting up these foundations that you will then be able to grow and like scale upon. And there's no getting out of setting up the foundation. Like that's why I think that like B School was so great, is that it does like take you by the hand and like one step at a time. You're going to do it week by week. Like you have other people doing it too. You have a little bit of it, like you got that accountability like built in. So like creating those things for yourself, the first year is all about that. And once you have those done, they're kind of pieces that are done, right? And then you can start kind of moving forward onto the bigger things that are more fun, like creating different types of programs. But there's no getting out of that like first work. And that can be like a little bit of like a up and down roller coaster day by day, season by season. And so that's why I wanted to lead a group through this, honestly, is that that support and just knowing that other people are going through the same things is so helpful. I have like 2 different masterminds I'm a part of for that same reason, of just groups of women that own their own businesses that like we can kind of help and support and ask questions. And do you know a solution for this? It just prevents feeling stuck and feeling alone and feeling like discouraged, because those are all really normal things sometimes, to be honest, when you are running a business of any kind. Yes. Okay, Rebecca asked, we're looking into doing B School. What else have you found helpful in furthering yourself? Books, blogs, etc. Yes. Rebecca, I have like lists. Are you guys ready? I think like, so some of my favorites, like books, like resources, people that have like helped me over the years. So definitely Marie Forleo. Even if you don't do B School, like look up her YouTube channel. She's amazing. Every like Tuesday, she has a new video that's like answering a question or interviewing somebody super inspiring. I find that like I'm big into podcasts. I love and obsessed with so many podcasts that are like business based and women business based, particular, and especially in the more creative industry. So like the Goal Digger podcast with Jenna Kutcher, I love her. The Desire Map by Danielle Laporte is an amazing book. You guys should all order it on Amazon if you don't have it already. And all of these are listed on my website. So if you go to simplyrealhealth.com/favorites, then I have like links to all of my favorite like books in the mental, spiritual, emotional realm and personal development realm, and then business realm too. And then I also have a blog post on my favorite podcasts. If you just go to the blog, so simplyrealhealth.com/blog, and just search in the search bar for podcasts. My favorite, I have like a list of my favorite ones that come up. So like finding, I think, continual inspiration is so important in this, and anything you can do in the realm of like meditation, yoga, mindfulness, like mindset, things that are sort of like with your food, even seriously, like food is such a big part of this, is like feeding yourself well in order to maintain energy and to like have great sleep and to have energy and to get these creative ideas. Like a lot of this has to start from some of the basics too around food. So making sure that you are eating real food and like that you have the cookbook and that you like are really into taking care of yourself on all levels, like those are the types of things that end up serving you in your business directly, even though it doesn't feel necessarily direct. Yeah, does that make sense? Oh, and one of the other books that I read, I think right when I was first starting out, was called $100 Startup by Chris Gillibro. Gillibro, I'm saying this right. Um, so that book is all about like starting when you literally have no money, like no budget, you don't have investors, like that's a whole different conversation, but like what you can do. And he started with like it's examples of all these people who have started with $100 and what they did with that $100 first. That was the most like best use of their money and investment. So a little bit a part of my story too, as you guys know from the vlog series, that I had like $2,000 to my name. And that's what B-School is. And I literally like spent it all in that, but it was the best investment I made. And it was with that principle of like investing in yourself first, in your growth, and setting the foundation, and doing it in a way that's non-sleazy and non-weird and like truly helpful. Like she's not selling anything, you know, she's not like, she's not getting anything like out of it for her. It is like truly to help you set up in ways of people who have come before you and people that you admire, the way that they've grown their business, right? And who they are as a person and what they're doing in the world. And not just about like money, making money. I think there's a way to do both, that you were able to make money and have like profitable business and a beautiful life, doing it in a way that matters. And so that was like the main draw, and why I knew it was right for me, is because I was so turned off by all the other things and people that were talking about it, but not in that way of like with so much more heart and soul. Yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any questions for you guys. Okay. Did I miss any questions here over on Instagram? Oh yeah, biggest takeaway from doing B-School. Okay, biggest takeaway is that I think I would have just skipped over a lot of the necessary parts to building and tried to do the more fun things, and then realized like a year or two in that I didn't have these basic components. So I even now come across a lot of entrepreneurs that are trying to start a business, but they've been trying for years. They've been trying for like 3 or 4 years, and they let other things sort of get in the way right from those beginning stages. They're like pivotal stages. It's like a baby being born, really. Like, and if like to have like newborn development, like fundamental like brain development and spinal cord development and like all of the things, you know, so that you can grow in the right way and in like a way that is really productive, I think, over time. I would have totally ignored all those things. But having that accountability, right, of like the week 1 opens and like you've got a week to like do the work and get to work. And then like into week 2, and that it built upon each other, so that I couldn't just go off the deep end like crazy and try to do it all at once and be extreme and then just drop off, but that it was like dripped out in this way that everybody was like doing it the same. And I felt this sense of accountability. I invested in it. There was no way I was not going to let it work. And so I think that was truly like one of the biggest components and things that was like super helpful, you know, in the takeaway. I think another takeaway is that you can, like, that it is possible to create a business and have both, like to have it be something that is profitable and lets you afford your life and your way of living and is so fulfilling and so enriching, and something that also helps others in some way, big or small. Like, and there's no, it's not to say that like different industries are better because of how they help people. It's just in whatever way that like you feel like other people get stuck, that you have a little tiny gift or way to like help make something in their life easier. I think that that's such a cool thing. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Adriana asked a great question. She said, when you say not to be distracted by the shiny objects, what examples of those be? Yeah, so it'd be like, oh, growing your Instagram audience, like really big. Like, because yes, that like maybe that's fine, but also at the same time, you don't own your Instagram audience. Like maybe it's the thing that makes you feel good, but it doesn't necessarily correlate to having the structure set up to actually be profitable, right? And like creating programs of like, how do you create programs or products, or what do you charge for your actual services? Things that are like kind of more of like the foundational, almost like old school, like it's like a course in business, right? It's like, instead of going to grad school for business, here are all the components and things you need to learn. So like shiny objects could be so many things with like social media, or like things that are just not actually as important to your like bottom line. And again, this is in the context of assuming that you want to create an actual like business, not just be an influencer or a person that has like a lot of followers. Does that make sense? So I totally would have done that. And had I not had the accountability, and had I not had like those steps laid out in front of me of like why it's important to have an email list and not just an Instagram following, it's like I didn't understand that there would be any difference. So that's why. Yeah. It is, because it is like Instagram seems so much more fun to like focus on and think about sometimes, or maybe it's more stressful depending who you are. But yeah, it is definitely like there are pieces and components to like, okay, how do you like, what about the like taxes, and do you have an accountant, and are you going to file for an S corp, or is it an LLC, or like all of those little pieces that do actually matter, that at some point you would have to do anyways, but if you just do them in the beginning, it makes everything else so much easier. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Jenny has another question. She said, sorry if you touched on this, but any recommendations on starting Instagram for your business? So yeah, or sorry, Jen, I called you Jenny. Yes. So for Instagram, I think that, you know, definitely like starting, and this actually depends on what your business model is and stuff, but definitely starting a separate page for your business than your personal is just a great idea. That way you're not bothering people who are like your actual friends and your family, but you're letting people opt in who want to be there, which makes it so much less weird and intimidating and less hard to be posting and sharing, because you're just sharing stuff to people that you know actually care about and want to see it, versus bombarding friends and family with this interest of yours that they maybe love you so much, but like are not actually interested in the same way that you are. So that would be definitely, I think, a good way to start. And then there's different algorithms too between like business accounts and personal accounts. So just right from the get-go, I think it really helps before you start growing this following that's just from your personal page, and then having to like change and switch over. Just do it right from the beginning if you can, and like can save so much time and hassle. And Instagram, like starting there, I think Instagram is a helpful tool, but I wouldn't say it's like the baseline of your business, or it should be. It's like a helpful tool to help you talk about and market and reach people and share with people, but it's not like where your business resides. And I think that is the difference between some of like the people that we see out there that are more influencers and people that have like business like behind that too, like in addition to that, right? Because you can have both, but not everybody has both. So think about like where you're actually wanting to take this and what you're wanting to build and how you're wanting to help people. And that would help kind of determine what role Instagram is going to play and how much and how often and what your goals with that really are, versus something more like an email list, which is something you end up owning and having more control over. Whereas Instagram could change any day. Tomorrow they could like shut down and leave, and you would like lose all your people. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay. Katie asked, would love to know tips on how to start an email list. I hear that phrase a lot. It makes me feel like it's more lofty. Yeah. Katie, no, it's actually not hard at all. And it's one of the things that Marie has you do in B School as like one of the first or second modules, is all about starting that and the different programs. But there's like a bunch that are out there that make it super easy, even if you're not like into technology, there's so many options and ways that you can go about it that do make it easier and totally possible and totally doable, even when you're first starting out. And then there's like more options later down the road when you feel like you've got that dialed in and nailed down. But first starting, don't let that intimidate you at all. There's a lot of easy ways to start and grow and like think about the whole email list component, because I do think it is important. And I know that there's so many things that, you know, that we like hear about, like email lists, but it doesn't have to be this crazy complicated process at all. So don't let that stop you. Okay, next question was, I'd love to hear about how you land new clients or partnerships. So when I first started, I'll just address it in that way because it's a little bit different now, but how I first started was honestly word of mouth. And I know that's not very like sexy, but it was, even though I was trying to grow an online business or have a business that had an online component to it, when I first started, it was very much like one-on-one, and people that I would like just be like, hey, I'm like doing this thing now. Do you like people that I thought might be interested or could use some help? And I would charge them like half the normal price and say like, this is almost like a pilot, a test round. You help me, like give me some feedback and I'll like, you're going to be one of my test cases. And people loved like being the guinea pigs and like testing for free and all kinds of things. Like I worked for free for a long time. And that's really kind of like where it first started, was like doing that stuff for free or like very minimally paid. And people that were then became so connected to me and to what I was trying to do and how I was trying to help, that then they would like tell a friend, or they had a sister, or they would like send somebody else to me of like, oh, if this is what you're doing now, this is like, here are some people that may find it helpful. I also had a blog when I started too. So that was like a great place for people to come to find me. So whether it's a blog or a website or something, YouTube or whatever it is, like a place that people can kind of come to come find you, kind of like get to know you even before they maybe even reach out or call or even know how you could help them. Just a place that they could kind of like, you know, just like creep on you probably before they would ever meet you. I mean, we all do that, right? Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So we are like right at the hour now, but I am more than happy. If you guys have other questions, feel free to email me at hello@simplyrealhealth.com. And if B-School is something that you're interested about, curious about, she just opened it today and it's just open for a week. So it closes next, I think it closes on March 1st. So if that's something you're curious about, the link is in my Instagram bio today. And then I'll also have it posted on the blog in part 4 that's coming. It'll be posted tonight. Or you can always email me to hello@simplyrealhealth and I can send you the link, and that way you'll definitely be in my little group as well. But thank you guys for being here. I like these questions are so beautiful. It's so exciting to think about so many of you chasing your dreams and doing so in a way that's sustainable and like really, really life-giving and serving of the world, right? Of giving your gifts and talents out there. So thank you so much for being here today. And if the recording and the webinar worked, and if you want to get the recording of this, again, just email us at hello@simplyrealhealth, and I'm more than happy to send you the link. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and let me know if you have any questions at all to hello@simplyrealhealth.com. I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.